When you're in the market for a new or remanufactured alternator, look to a name you can trust: Bosch. Bosch remanufactured alternators are backed by over 90 years of OE starting and charging experience. All Bosch reman alternators are OE fit for fewer returns and easier installation. Bosch alternators are the most reliable remanufactured alternators available. Bosch reman alternators contain the highest percentage of new replacement components when compared to all other brands. All other components are 100% tested and inspected to verify that they meet rigid Bosch recertification standards. Any components not meeting Bosch standards are replaced with new components. After final assembly, every Bosch remanufactured alternator is 100% full load tested to ensure that the product you purchase meets or exceeds OE standards for performance or overall service life. And installing a Bosch alternator comes with peace of mind. Bosch offers competitive guarantees as well as the Bosch Ultimate Protection Program. This roadside assistance program features a free jumpstart or free towing for up to 50 miles if your vehicle breaks down. Most of today's vehicles have computer-controlled charging systems. The most common sign of a faulty alternator is when the indicator light on the dash comes on when the vehicle is started. However, the indicator light may also come on because of a communication issue with other modules or computers in the vehicle. All other symptoms can be an indicator of either a marginal battery or charging issue. Bosch provides a basic charging system troubleshooting guide with every alternator. However, a proper diagnosis by a trained technician will determine whether the alternator is defective and needs to be replaced, or if there are other elements of the vehicle's charging system that need service. Before you begin the alternator removal process, the battery must be tested to ensure that it is fully charged and that it can maintain a charge. Bosch recommends Bosch-branded battery testers. The battery needs to show a state of charge of 12.6 volts. If the battery is less than 12.6 volts, it needs to be charged and retested, or replaced with a new battery that is fully charged. If you don't know when the battery was replaced, now would be a good time to do that. In addition to testing the battery, a more thorough voltage drop test must be performed to ensure that the cables and cable connections between the battery and the alternator and the rest of the charging system are good. If the battery is weak or cannot hold a charge, a good alternator will not properly charge or maintain the state of charge of the battery. This is one of the leading causes of alternator failure. The alternator is not a substitute for a battery charger. Once it is confirmed that it is the alternator that needs to be replaced, the next step is to determine which replacement alternator to use. Visit BoschAutoparts.com to look up the correct alternator for your vehicle. The tools required to replace your alternator will vary depending on the make and model of your vehicle. You may need metric and SAE wrenches, socket and extension sets, a torque wrench, belt tensioning tool, battery terminal tools, a battery cable cleaning tool, a battery memory minder, needle nose pliers, assorted screwdrivers, a wire brush, and safety glasses and gloves. A great deal of time and difficulty may be involved in replacing an alternator, including the removal of other accessory components. However, this will vary by vehicle. Consult a service manual for your vehicle prior to beginning the removal process to identify any additional tools or steps required. When working on any part of a vehicle's electrical system, safety is always a primary concern. To ensure your safety and to avoid damaging your vehicle, make sure that the engine is off and that the key is removed from the ignition. On computer-controlled vehicles, it is a good idea to install a memory minder device in the vehicle's cigarette lighter or power outlet. This will keep the engine control unit, or ECU, powered up when the battery is disconnected and ensure all electrical presets are maintained. Always properly support the vehicle and set the emergency brake while working on the vehicle. Disconnect negative and positive cables at battery. Failure to do so may result in damage to the vehicle's electrical system. Remove the voltage regulator connection from the alternator. If there are W or R terminal wires, they should be removed now as well. Mark the wires with a piece of tape to ensure that the wires are reassembled correctly. Remove the serpentine belt from the alternator by prying the belt tensioner so that slack is created in the belt. This will enable the belt to slip easily from the alternator. Remove the mounting bolts from the alternator. If the alternator has different length bolts, mark the bolts so the replacement alternator can be installed correctly, and pull forward. Remove the positive battery cable from the alternator. Next, remove the alternator from the engine. Inspect the original alternator for signs of engine oil, power steering fluid, and antifreeze leakage that need to be corrected prior to installation of the replacement alternator. Oil and antifreeze ingression will shorten the life of the replacement alternator. Inspect the serpentine belt for signs of wear or cracking. Worn belts should be replaced so there is no slippage during operation, which would interfere with proper alternator output. Any conditions, such as leaking fluids or worn-out belts, need to be addressed at the same time the alternator is being replaced to prevent premature failure of the replacement alternator. Before installing the replacement alternator, inspect and clean all cable and wire connections on the vehicle's wiring harness. Remove the replacement alternator from the package and review all literature to ensure that any service bulletins or precautions are reviewed prior to installation. Put the alternator in place on the engine or in the mounting brackets. Incorrectly mounted alternators may result in loose or broken belts or damage the alternator housing, which will affect the output of the replacement alternator. Connect wiring harness connectors to the battery-positive terminal of the alternator. These should only be finger-tight at this time. Install the mounting bolts by hand and tighten them only finger-tight as well. Refer to the vehicle's service manual for the proper torque settings for the mounting bolts and electrical connections. Tighten the bolts and connections to the proper settings, and then make the voltage regulator connection. Reconnect the battery cables and reinstall the serpentine belt. Start the engine. Using the voltmeter connected to the battery positive and negative terminal of the battery, you will read a voltage higher than 12.6 volts as an indication the alternator is charging. Additionally, if you do not have a voltmeter, the charge lamp indicator may be used. Or on many vehicles, the battery voltage can be displayed on the instrument panel or driver message center. To properly dispose of a used alternator, return it to the retailer where you purchased the replacement unit. When buying an alternator, a core charge is typically assessed, which will be refunded with the return. To find your local source for high-quality Bosch automotive products, visit our website at boschautoparts.com. For professional assistance with your auto repair needs, contact an independently owned and authorized Bosch Car Service repair shop. Visit boschcarservice.us to find one near you.